I kind of discovered that if I would have grown up with healthy boundaries or known what they were, I don't think I would have been in that abusive relationship for as long as I would have. So when I was reflecting, I realized how much I needed to set healthy boundaries in my life. And that's kind of what started my whole journey with boundaries.
Welcome to the Chingona Revolution podcast, where we will bring out your inner badass Latina, overcome self-doubt, help you gain clarity, and pave your own path, all while leading with courage. I am your host, Latina coach and speaker, Erica Cruz. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Chingona Revolution podcast. This week on the podcast, we are talking all things boundaries, what boundaries are, why they're important, why setting boundaries is actually not a bad thing and does not make you a mean person. It's quite the opposite. It's one of the most loving things you can do for yourself and the people around you, and how when you set boundaries, you inspire other people to also set boundaries. We also talked to this amazing guest who is a boundary coach. We also talked to her about the journey of launching a boundary coaching business and how sometimes lifes and you may have these goals and dreams that you want to achieve, but when life happens and sometimes we put pressure on ourselves to hurry up and get that dream started, that pressure is actually a blockage and not allowing us to create the dream project or the business from an intentional place, because we are human first, right? So this guest is none other than Liz Torres, who is my client inside of Courage Driven Latina. She's been in it for almost a year. And in that year, she's gone through 3 different courage projects. And we're going to talk about the boundary setting, all about boundaries, as well as that journey in this podcast episode. So keep listening for an amazing, amazing conversation. Liz, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. I am so excited about our conversation today because I know that we've been working together for a while and you've gone through a roller coaster of events, and I've been able to just kind of be on the sidelines and watch you go through life when life is lifing and turn this idea of being a boundary coach into reality. And there's just been so much growth that I've seen in you. So for the people who don't know you, can you tell us who you are and what you do, even though I already gave some of it away?
Yes, so my name is Liz, and I am a boundary coach and a breathwork facilitator.
I love that combination of boundaries and breath work. And let's just dive into that. Like, what does it mean to have boundaries, and what got you interested in doing boundary coaching?
So I think boundaries have been a hot topic, right? I think for me, boundaries is basically communicating in a healthy way. We're not putting walls up. We're not ghosting people. We're not, just leaving people on red. It's a form of communication where you're telling the person where you're at and where they can meet you. Of course, if it's a very, very abusive or toxic relationship, that's a whole different story. And I totally
Mhm.
respect that. But I feel like boundaries help improve relationships. And I actually got into it because of my own healing journey several years ago. After leaving an abusive relationship, I did do a lot of therapy. I did a lot of natural healing methods. And I kind of discovered that if I would have grown up with healthy boundaries or known what they were, I don't think I would have been in that abusive relationship for as long as I would have. So when I was reflecting, I realized how much I needed to set healthy boundaries in my life. And that's kind of what started my whole journey with boundaries.
I love that. You said something key there where if I had boundaries growing up, I wouldn't have stayed as long as I did. And just like how I think the educational system should be teaching us personal finance and financial literacy, I also think boundaries and communication is something that needs to be taught. But tell us a little bit about what you've seen in our community. Like, both of us are Latinas. So what have you seen as far as boundary setting in our community? Because in my opinion, it's just non-existent, right? You just either ghost people, you sweep it under the rug, you never talk about things. So tell me, in your experience after having coached 10 people, as well as your own experience and your own lived experience, what is that like in our culture?
I think in the Latino Hispanic culture, it's very embedded into us from an early age, especially for women and girls, to be polite, do as you're told, help around the house, um, say yes. Like we are not really told not to say no. And I think as kids, you're told, hey, go hug your tía or your tía, even though you don't, let's say you don't even know them. Go say hi and give them a hug. So ve a saludarlos, ve a darle un abrazo. And at such an early age, like we're taught, no, you need to be polite. You need to do this. You can't say no. Even if you don't even know the person and right away you have to hug them. It's like, okay, that's go. Like looking back at that now, there's just so much, even with our parents, for example, they, they'll want us to pay bills if you grew up as the eldest daughter of an immigrant family. You know this very much as you basically take on the role as a family manager, right? So
Totally.
so even just within that, I feel like there's so many lack of boundaries there. You have to help translate at an early age. You
Mhm.
help pay the bills. You help with your siblings. You help with so much. So it's always an expectation that we're going to say yes to all of this, which again, it's fine if you want to help, right? We all want to be helpful in our families, but there's when once someone says no, it's like, what? Like, did they really say no?
Yeah.
So we don't really grow up learning how to set healthy boundaries, or maybe we don't even have to say no. We can say, you know what, mom, I'm super busy right now. Can we schedule it for this date?
Right.
They're not, they'll probably be taken aback. I mean, my mom was the first time I said that.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I've had an experience with my mom where she's like, ayúdame con esto, right? And it's like everything's urgent for her, but I will be in the middle of editing a brand deal that's like thousands of dollars on the line. It's due soon and it's just like very, high pressure. And she's like, coming in with her bill and she's like, take care of this for me. And I remember the first time that I was like, I can't help right now. She took it so personally. She's like, I'll call your brother then. And it just totally took it personally. And now I feel like the dynamic we have is very different because now I've been able to set boundaries and communicate a little bit clearer. And now she understands what I do for work. But before, when I had just moved back and she saw me in the room, she's like, pues aquí estás, you can help me. And they can't actually comprehend that. So I totally relate to all of that. Tell me a little, I mean, we could literally talk about boundaries in our community for like the whole podcast interview because there's so much there. But tell me how breath work helped your healing journey and why you became a breathwork facilitator.
So when I was in my healing journey, I started doing a lot of meditations. And back then, I was not diagnosed with OCD, which I am now. But I've noticed that a lot of the meditations were very triggering for me. It's a lot of mindset work, right? And it was kind of counterproductive to what they teach us now in OCD therapy, especially with exposure therapy. Um, so it back then I didn't understand why I would always get triggered with the guided meditations. Looking back now, I do. So I wanted to find an alternative way to help myself with my healing journey, and that's kind of where I came upon breathwork online, and I started going to some of the virtual classes, and then I just really enjoyed it, and I decided to become a breathwork facilitator, and I feel like that helped me release a lot of emotions somatically, um, or even just move, the energy in your body. You have so much energy, so many blocks. So I think it
Yeah.
helped me a lot with that.
Yeah. And do you find that having practiced breath work and maybe even let it, has that helped you with your own boundary setting?
I think so. I think it helped me be more alert. And while I do breath work classes or when I'm having it done on me,
Yeah.
um, I feel like I'm able to release some resentment or emotions. So that is definitely needed when you're trying to set boundaries so you don't carry that onto your journey on setting healthy boundaries.
Totally, totally. And I remember whenever we first started working together and you mentioned boundaries and then also being a breathwork facilitator, I was like, this sounds like a great combination because it's in order to set healthy boundaries, you need to be very mindful, you need to be aware, you need to be regulated, which is exactly what breathwork does. And I had no idea about what you just mentioned with how having OC, having being diagnosed with OCD makes it very difficult to do guided meditations. I had never heard that before. But as you know, we have the 4 M's inside of Courage Driven Latina that we work on. And one of the M's is movement. The second one is mindfulness. And under mindfulness, it's either meditation or breath work. And those are the options, right, that you get to kind of pick from. But that is such a good point because if somebody's really struggling with meditation, they should try breath work because it's more of an active thing, right? It's like with mindfulness, sometimes your mind can totally be scattered and it's hard to calm it down. But when breath work begins to really include your body and you have the breath to focus on, I can see why that would be an easier way of accessing mindfulness.
Yeah, they're both tapping into the same thing, just in different ways. And for me, breathwork just helped. So when I do my breathwork facilitations, I try to be as less triggering as I could, coming from a background of knowing what it's like to be triggered with OCD. So I try to guide people through nature walks, and that's kind of my form of guiding them through that. And I do
Ooh,
visualizations.
I
Yeah.
love that. Yes, as you know, I'm a huge fan of visualization. So, okay, let's get into how our paths crossed because I've known you. I mean, we're coming up on almost a year of working together, and you have gone through a lot. Like inside of Courage Driven Latina, you have worked on a confidence courage project, a social media courage project, and now you're working on your business courage project or the CEO path. So tell us, like, how did you even come across the program and what inspired you to want to sign up?
I want to say I came across it just by coming across your profile on Instagram, and I think you were featured in one of the events that was local to me at La Quinta. My mom had worked it and she brought back the workbook, and I was just looking into it, and I couldn't believe we had an event so close to me and I didn't know about it. So that's when I started looking up, the speakers, and I want to say you were there, and that's how I stumbled across your profile. And I saw the coaching program that you had, and it just very much aligned with me. At the time, I was looking at other programs too, but yours just really stood out, and it was very what is that word? Very authentic. You were just super authentic, and I really like that about you. And I definitely love the 1 year aspect of the program as well.
Yeah, totally. So a lot of people tell me the authentic thing. So sometimes I'll get on a call, like if I do a consult call or something like that, people are like, "Oh my gosh, you're the same person as you are online." And I'm like, "I literally don't know who else I can be." And I think that that's hilarious that the authenticity part comes off so much. So tell me, once you joined the program, did it still feel authentic to you?
Yes, yes, definitely. I wasn't expecting to love also the community aspect of it so much. So that was just another bonus to it.
Yeah, definitely. And when you joined, you were like, I'm going to join because I want to be a boundary coach. And you were very business focused, which obviously there's a business path inside of Courage Driven Latina, but what happened?
Yeah, so I was super focused. I said, you know what? I already went through my healing era. I feel like I'm in a great spot. Like I'm ready to start. I've been meaning to launch my business for maybe 4 years now. So I was just ready. But then life started to life, and there were some hiccups. I did lose a very close family member also during that time. And it just kind of flipped everything upside down for me, which is why then I went on the more confidence path because I felt like I couldn't start the business until I figured that out for myself.
Yeah, and I remember I remember coaching you when this happened, and there was a lot of pressure that you were putting on yourself with I need to heal, but I also need to hurry up and start this business. And there was just so much pressure on the business and I remember the coaching you received was you just lost a family member that you cared for. And, you were traveling, right? So there was just like a lot there. There was so much grief that the coaching was, how can you hold space for the grief? And now that you're on the other side of that, how do you feel about the path that you ended up taking, that you did confidence and then worked on the business?
I think that was the right thing to do. I think I would have. There was something you had told me, where you think you said something like, "How do you want to start the launch of your business carrying everything, all the load that you have? Like your clarity." I think you said something about my clarity. It was not going to be the same as if I worked on everything first. So that was something that stood out, and I know you worded it so differently, but really well. And that's when I realized, Erica's right. I need to focus on me, because how can I basically like birth a business when I'm going through so much right now?
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned that you wanted to start your business for about 4 years. So what had you tried that didn't work, or what got you stuck every time that you were trying during those 4 years?
Um, I had tried a coaching program. It was super different though and very short. It was like 3 months, and I didn't feel like that was enough to get me to where I needed to be. And then once I was just by myself, I had a lot of fear with imposter syndrome, a lot of fear with the legal aspects, being
Mhm.
a child of immigrants.
Yeah.
I mean, I am documented, but it's still, it's still very scary.
Yeah, totally.
So there were so many blocks where I was just scared of so many things. And what if it goes wrong? What if this? So many what ifs. And that's when I realized that no, I need a coach.
If this podcast is resonating with you, then I invite you to my newest webinar happening on Monday, July 29th at 5 o'clock Pacific time. 4 proven steps to reinvent yourself in just 90 days. This is for you if you know that you're ready for a change in your life. Maybe you feel stuck and you know that something needs to change, even if you don't know what that change is just yet. It's also for you if you are ready to reinvent yourself, whether this means building confidence, maybe you want to start creating content, maybe you want to start or grow a business, or maybe you want to pivot your career. It's also for you if your dreams or whatever goals you have currently live in your head and maybe your journal, but you're ready to make them a reality. You're ready to make them something that others can see outside of you, right? Not just living in your brain, not just living in your journal, or maybe you've been putting everybody else's needs before your own and you're really ready to work on you, especially because we are officially halfway through the year at this point. So, in this webinar, you are going to learn why it is that you feel stuck and why it is that you resist change. You're going to learn how to go from thinking about your goals and dreams to actually starting, whether it is a dream project of yours or a business. You're going to learn how to go from thinking about it to actually starting it. You're also going to learn how it's possible to completely reinvent yourself in less than 90 days. And I'm going to be sharing the 4-step framework and my strategies that have supported me and hundreds of clients in embracing change and executing projects successfully. I mean, we are talking launching podcasts, dating after never having dated before, dating after a divorce, advocating for themselves at work, transitioning to a different new career, pivoting from one industry to the other. I mean, the projects that my clients have worked on are incredible. Anything it is that you want to do that you've held yourself back from, come to this webinar. We're going to go over those 4 proven steps to reinvent yourself. And I'm super excited because at the end of the webinar, we are going to be opening the doors for Courage Driven Latina. So if you've had your eyes on Courage Driven Latina, now is the time to join. So make sure that you register for the webinar because there will be a bonus. So I don't want you to miss the bonus, but if you're not familiar with Courage Driven Latina, it is my transformational 12-month group coaching program that's going to help you gain clarity, confidence, community. It helps you execute a courage project in 90 days and connects you with a like-minded community of badass women. And there will be a special 48-hour bonus for all of you who attend the webinar. So be sure to register by using the link down below. Again, this is happening on Monday, July 29th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. I cannot wait to see you at 4 proven steps to reinvent yourself in just 90 days. Yeah. And to your point about 3 months, so Courage Driven Latina used to be 3 months. And as much as a lot of beautiful projects came out of it and a lot of community and transformation came out of it, I actually just last weekend met one of the girls in person for the first time who was in the first ever round. And she was telling me just how much return on investment she still gets from it being 3 months. But what I learned was that a lot of people were in your situation where they were like, I want to start this business. And then they came in, and what they actually needed first was the life coaching component. And then they were able to take the other paths. And the reason that we layered the paths from confidence to content to business is because those are the building blocks. Like, first, you need to believe in yourself. You need the confidence. And then you need to start showing up. Before you need to like show up and sell yourself before then you could sell other people. So to your point of, yeah, you're in the first round, I think, of the program being 12 months because you're coming in towards your cohort is coming to its end. And I wasn't sure. I was going to test it out, but your round has confirmed to me that this was the best decision because life is going to life. And just the fact that you've already worked on 3 different projects and it hasn't even been the year yet means that the return on investment you're getting on this program and the results you're getting are just so much more than if it was just 3 months.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I can't stress enough how ironic it was that I was super set in my ways. Even when I was considering your program, I said, but I'm not going to need life coaching. I feel like I'm just going to need business coaching. So I just thought it was super ironic. And I definitely ate my words up when I think most of it, or like half of the program, more than half of it, was a lot of life coaching for me.
Yeah. And I remember talking to you about business in the beginning. And one of your big kind of reinventions and big transformations that I've seen is your own identity and the way that you've seen yourself. There was a lot of hesitancy. I remember at the beginning to call yourself a boundary coach. And now you have a whole book of business full of clients. So tell me a little bit about that transformation from not being comfortable calling yourself a coach to like where it is that you are now.
So there was a lot of identity work that I had to do. I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I did several self coaching as well as the coaching that you provided. And I think the pivotal moment also was starting to take on complimentary clients, which basically means they were getting free coaching from me for several weeks. I started off with one friend that signed up, and then now I've had 10 clients. And I think being able to coach them, I mean, it's free coaching and that's for 4 to 6 weeks. And I just think being able to throw myself in it, and along with doing so much of the identity work, it has boosted up my confidence so much. Um, I I feel like I'm ready. I could call myself a coach. I have introduced myself as a boundary coach several times now, and I don't second guess it like I used to a year ago.
Yeah, and what have the complimentary clients been able to do for you and your confidence?
They've been able to throw different situations at me. I've had clients who they are pretty much set in their ways with boundaries. Like they're really good at setting boundaries, healthy boundaries too. They're probably like super advanced in that. And I was still able to coach them, even if they're on the tail end of their boundary journey. Then I
Yeah.
have had clients who are in the beginning phase, and I've
Mhm.
been able to help them. So everyone has been in different journeys within boundaries. And
Yeah.
I think being able to see an assortment of that, has helped me uh, not only prepare, but I feel I can confidently say that I gave them really good coaching. Like, I am really proud of myself because a year ago, I don't know if I could have said that, but now I I feel super confident with helping them no matter if they're in the beginning phase of their journey or towards the end.
Yeah, I love that so much. And that's the beauty about working with multiple people because then you find evidence of, oh, I can help people. But typically, what happens, what I saw with you and what I see with so many of my clients is that we're almost, and even myself, right? This was me at some point in my journey as well, where I was waiting to feel confident to then do the things, but doing the things is what helps you with your confidence. And by you being able to firsthand see how you're helping people, it's almost evidence to your brain of like, oh yeah, we can help people who are advanced in their boundary journey. We can help people who are very new into their boundary journey. And people are going to come in at different places. But the fact that you're able to meet them wherever they are gives you so much confidence and reassurance that like this is a service that is needed and that is life changing for people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've had a few clients that I would consider they're like boundary queens, and
I
I
love
was
it.
still coaching them.
Oh my gosh, I love that word boundary queen. I wonder if there's a way you can like measure when somebody has reached boundary queen status or something like that with like whenever you have a full book of business with your one-on-one clients. That would be, there's like rewards programs and things like that. I feel like that would be a really good reward program, like, oh, once you hit boundary queens then you get access to this free course or something for you to think about for the future. You don't have to do that now, but I think that that would be great.
I love that. I really love that.
Yeah, right? Like a bonus, like almost gamifying it and making kind of like how we're doing the Change 30 right now, where everybody encouraged Driven Latinas participating in the challenge. And at the end, like the winner gets a prize, kind of like that. So let me ask you this. You were encouraged Driven Latina before the new curriculum and after the new curriculum. Have you had a chance to look at the new curriculum and done that? And what has that been like for you?
I haven't, but I just chose the CEO path. So that's, I think, when I'm going to start looking at the new curriculum.
So
Uh,
you haven't even done the new curriculum and you've still gotten these damn results. So you mean to tell me, and this is why I wanted to ask, because here's the thing, like not to put you on the spot, when you're new to a program, you start doing the curriculum and you joined when we had the old curriculum. So you probably consumed some of that, but the new one, you were already in the program. So like a lot of people who are already in the program don't usually consume the new one. So you mean to tell me that your results are literally from the coaching calls?
yes, 100%. Yeah, I love the coaching calls. I think that's the biggest return on my investment. I know everyone has their own journey. For me, I absolutely love the live coaching calls.
Amazing. Yeah. And then I have people who can't make the calls live, but they get results just from the curriculum. So it's just, I'm so glad I asked you that because I like to see what's the most valuable piece for people. And that's kind of what my question was going to go to, like what tool or aspect of the program is the most valuable to you. And for you, it's been the life coaching calls, which is the weekly Tuesday calls. And then we also have the business coaching calls, which you also attend those. You always get coaching in those too.
Yeah, I really try to take advantage of that because you are a great resource.
I appreciate it. You've already answered this question, but I'm curious if there's a piece of coaching that has stuck with you, maybe like an aha moment or something that really made you have a pivotal, like a mindset shift or really change. That's something that maybe stuck with you.
I really think back, and I would still say it was when you told me I needed to work on my identity and heal from my loss before I continued with the business aspect of it. Um, I felt so pressured, and most of that pressure was me putting it on myself. So I feel like I needed someone to tell me that. And which is why you're our coach. I needed someone to really like show me that tough love and tell me, you know what, you might not create your business from a healthy way if you move forward without taking time to grieve.
Yeah.
That was hard to hear, but it was a very pivotal moment for me where I needed to take a step back, work on my mental health, work on me for several months before I continued with my business.
Yeah. And you won the failure challenge. Did you win the No, you got a bonus call. You and I ended up having like a one-on-one call. And I
Mhm.
remember because you won something. So you and I ended up on a one-on-one call. Oh, you I think you left a testimonial, right? But you and we ended up just having a one-on-one call because the other people couldn't make that time. And I remember I feel like that's when your shift was happening. And this was probably in January, I want to say, that we had the call. And you were really going from the grieving to getting ready to like really start to show up. And we were working on like your habits. And I remember that call. And I remember that was in my mind because obviously I spoke to you one on one. It was a pivotal moment for you. And it's just been beautiful to watch you grow in your confidence and just the way that you show up. And the other girls see it in the call too. So tell me a little bit about having that community aspect. Do you like peer coach with anybody? I mean, a lot of your clients have ended up being from the program too, right? So tell me a little bit about that.
I think that also has been life changing. I wasn't expecting to love the community aspect so much. It's so hard as it is to find friends when you're in your late 20s, early 30s, and any time after you're in school, basically. It's hard to find friends. And it's
Totally.
especially hard to find friends that are kind of in the same journey as you are, whether if it's life or business, let alone Latina friends, right? So I think this container really brings that out because you're not only making or networking with people who are on the same path or journey as you, they also get you because most of them are our eldest daughters. Actually, I think a lot of us are, so we are able to relate to one another.
Totally. Yeah. So you said something about it's hard to make friends. It's hard to make friends as an adult. It's hard to make friends as a driven Latina adult. So, yeah, to be in a container with people who may be in a different line of work, maybe be working on a different courage project, it's crazy how many similarities there are in the coaching that's being given, and how when one person's being coached it's almost like you're like, oh, I didn't know I needed to hear that. And I think that that's the power of group coaching, that you not only get to hear from me and obviously the support coach, but from all of the other women. And I mean, I always say 20 brains are better than one, because somebody always has an additional thing to add that I didn't think about, or like, oh, have you checked out this resource, or here's this. And I find that there's just so much beauty in community. And obviously you attended the in-person event as well, so you got to meet some of the people in person as well, which was really nice.
Yeah, and then like just adding to what you said, I think when someone else is getting coaching, even though you're not exactly in their shoes, there's so many takeaways with the coaching that they're receiving that it's still, I take some of them too, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even know I needed to hear that today, but that is so true.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's go back to boundaries. If somebody is having a hard time setting a boundary with their parents, what is like an exploratory question that you would have for them? So, what would you want them to think about? If let's say that I'm like, oh, I just moved, I moved back into my mom, just to my mom's house to start this business, and she's not really respecting my space, and I don't want to be disrespectful. So, what would you say to somebody like that?
So with like let's say this was a client of mine, I do have them journal the first week at the end of the day reflecting on what opportunities they could have had to set healthy boundaries. So I do have them journal just so they can start thinking about it. And then usually like the second or third week, we prepare to have a conversation with whoever they're trying to set a healthy boundary with. In this case, it's with a parent. So I just have them start thinking, what boundaries do I want with them and how do I want that conversation to go? Because I feel like in the beginning when I was still learning with boundaries, I I would say no right away instead of there's alternative ways to set healthy boundaries without saying no to someone.
Totally. Yeah. It's, and I think sometimes people assume that boundaries are just completely shutting the door, cutting people off, being firm, being mean. But what I've learned through talking to you and just in my own journey with boundaries, it's boundaries is actually like a form of self love and of love for others, right? Because you aren't overextending yourself. If you're constantly overextending yourself and not setting boundaries, then that's harmful for the relationship. It's harmful for you. You can be resentful. So, boundaries are actually a really good, healthy thing, even though our culture sometimes doesn't look at it in that way, right?
Yeah, and like in this case, let's say your mom kept interrupting you while you were doing something. I did have a client go through similar things. And
Mhm.
one thing that I would notice during our calls was that her door was always open, even
Oh,
as when she was working. So I told her, what if you start slowly, like closing it until you're
mhm.
at a point where you feel comfortable just having your door closed?
Yeah,
And maybe just having a conversation with your parent saying, you know what, I am working during these hours. So if you see the door closed, just know that it's not because I don't want to talk to you. I'm working and I sometimes I'm on calls and I can't be interrupted. And really what it is just you communicating to that person, like the
yeah.
why behind a boundary sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much power in boundary setting. And then the beautiful thing is when you start setting boundaries, you also inspire other people to set boundaries. And none of us want to overstep in somebody else's space or not be mindful of what it is that they need. So by you enforcing boundaries, like now my mom even sets boundaries with me and I'm like, you go girl, right? And I respect it. I'm very happy with it. So I feel like the work you're doing is life changing, not just to your clients, but the people around them too.
I agree. I also feel like my parents, they've come a long way with my boundaries. And sometimes I see the little intentions that they're setting when they're setting like baby boundaries with me
Yeah.
or with others. So I do like that because we're kind of spreading that around. We don't want
Yeah.
to just say no or, ghost people or just cut people off. Again, there's a little small caveat to that, but um, we want them to learn how to set healthy boundaries. It's just a form of healthy communication.
Exactly. Exactly. So if somebody wanted to work with you with boundary coaching, where can they find you? How can they follow you? Give us the 411 on that.
So you can find me on Instagram at Wellness by Liz, or
Perfect.
you can send me an email at hola@wellnessbyliz.com.
Perfect. Okay, well we will link all of that down below in the show notes. Liz, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to share with us? Whether it's like boundary related or your journey related or maybe your participation in the program, anything that we didn't talk about?
So something that I have also learned these last few months with boundaries is that we're always evolving and our relationships are always evolving as well. So just because you're setting a firm boundary one day, those can be lowered a few weeks from now or months or years.
Mm,
Boundaries are always changing just like life changes. So that is
I love
something
that.
that I do stress to my clients now. Like just because you're setting a boundary tomorrow doesn't mean it's always going to be there. You can always change them. You have the power to change them.
This is so good because this reminds me of when I'm launching and I'm just in a busy period in my business. I have to set different boundaries with the people around me with like, hey, I won't be as responsive, I won't be as available. I'm probably going to be a little bit higher stress. I'm going to need just a little bit more compassion or even depending on my cycle, right? If I am like the week before my period, I have a little bit less patience. And just communicating where I am in my cycle, or, I'm in my spring season. So I'm going to have a little bit more energy now. And I find that that's really helpful. So what I'm hearing from you is that boundaries aren't permanent.
Correct.
They're like little cones that you put up instead of concrete thingies. What are,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're not putting walls up. We're just
Yeah.
putting little cones.
I love that. Wow. Okay. I love it. Amazing. Liz, this has been such a good conversation. Is there anything else you want to add or do you feel complete?
I feel complete. Thank you so much for
Great.
having me as a guest.
Yes, thank you for coming on. This was such a natural conversation. Again, we're going to tag your social media and all your info down below. So, y'all, if you took anything away from this episode, be sure to screenshot and tag both Liz and myself because we love hearing from you. And I will see you on our next coaching call, Liz.
Yes, sounds
All
good. Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to visit theericacruz.com. That's Erica with a K, where you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can help this podcast grow by supporting me with an Apple Podcast rate and review. If you took anything away from this episode, I invite you to take a screenshot and share it on social media so that your favorite badass Latinas can also check it out. Be sure to tag me at the Erica Cruz. That's Erica with a K because you know I want to see it. If you're ready to join the revolution and be a part of the Courage Driven Latina community, visit couragedrivenlatina.com to get more information and join the waitlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.